Flight school wasn't going exactly as planned, but before I even crossed through the now magically activated access beacon, I finally made it to level 6 without once causing injury to any other avatar. It was taking longer to level up than perhaps some players, but the true value of a level beyond 6 was still very intangible, seeing that without the imposed need to purchase increasingly devious weapons, I was already relatively successful. On my way to the final race of level 5, I was fortunate enough to encounter a walk-in dumpster where I could unload some of my karmic financial debt, the items I purchased to offset the money I stole from the convenience store. I was happy to be drinking and eating in a place where my avatar's attempts to litter would be easily thwarted, my hopes of finding an appropriate recycling walk-in dumpster relatively low. I tried discarding my free gun as well, and amazingly missed the dumpster completely. Then I queued up for a street race named Double Parking. No one was interested like usual, so I raced alone. I had begun to liken these quiet races to an opportunity, my current theory of gaming desperately hinging on the tentative idea that no time is ever actually wasted as long as the right attitude is applied. I chose to focus on the fact that I was improving Francisco's quantified racing points, while at the same time I was practicing my own driving ability, a kind of time price with a payoff of improved performance all around. Skills that when combined could someday be applied to race against other players, or more likely, fleeing from them. I could also use this time to try to obtain clean laps, and appreciate the hours upon hours that must have gone into designing this world. I'm awarded level 6 and am declared a winner, clearly indisputable, and although I didn't know it, Double Parking would be the last race I would solo for some time. I immediately headed to the barbershop to celebrate. I scrolled down to the Balbo facial hair I had wanted for so long, but chose to forego its purchase. I felt that I had accomplished what I had set out to do, and the mere freedom to purchase what I desired was enough. I boldly entered the flight school, only to learn that the missions were not aimed towards establishing a good handle on the basics of flying vehicles or amplifying natural skills, but more focused on putting poor Francisco through some sort of Blue Angels Hell Week. I had assumed the first class at flight school would focus on some light paperwork and a syllabus highlighting the general principles of aerodynamics or adjusting the seat, but instead I was being propelled by a jet engine towards the city and instructed to do a flip over and then under a bridge. It was daunting, but I did learn that by a consistent push forward on the joystick I was able to pull it off. It was actually easier than it sounds. Soon thereafter I found myself free falling towards my death, instructed to catch a falling parachute and then deploy it before hitting the ground at a very particular place. This proved to be the hardest part, landing the jump on this giant target, one which I would overshoot, undershoot, miss completely, hit completely, circle around indefinitely, and eventually miss completely again and again and again. The flight school teacher / drill sergeant kept making me do the same exercise over and over, and I finally succeeded, but not before I became psychologically adjusted to the act of jumping out of a plane without a parachute. The missions would only become more difficult from there, being told to crash land a megaplane in rough weather or land a helicopter onto a moving trailer before it went into a tunnel, skills which seemed rather impractical in what I had experienced thus far within the game world. I would be disqualified for damaging vehicles and docked points for not landing a plane suffering engine failure perfectly, but c'est la vie, it was nice to be up in the sky. At a certain point during this grueling set of examinations, I received confirmation that my experience points were actually tabulating, my flight skill bumping up to 20, filling the first of many progress bars. I'm hoping that it is this rating, not my actual ability to manipulate air vehicles with 2 joysticks, that has made following formation or handling this attack helicopter difficult. And while we're at it, the attack helicopter was particularly difficult. I was to use the machine guns to knock down targets about the buildings in this construction site, and also use rockets to do the same thing. I almost ran out of time, but thankfully used the landing skid to defeat the last target right before the buzzer, and extra thankfully no one but Francisco was around to get hurt by this outrageous endeavor I had been charged with. The use of a violent weapon was not necessarily on my to-don't list. Firing a gun in a gun range or a rocket from a helicopter in a helicopter rocket gun range wasn't hurting anyone as far as I could tell. My goal of pacifism was not only to pursue a peaceful existence, but also a fulfilling one with varied interesting experiences, and not surprisingly the use of weapons was a recurring experience in this world. I will, however, continue to throw away the pistol I'm given every time I log in, only because of how easy it is to accidentally go from pedestrian to aggravated assault contestant. I cycled through the classes, and although I didn't perform at a world record level, let's just say if they gave out medals for getting bronze medals, I would definitely get the gold. I'm also told that I'm being charged an additional $50 a day for utilities, a text message I guess Francisco decides to read while trying to fly this style jet in an inverted flight formation for exhibition. The final class I would attempt, ground level, required the flight of a jet under bridges. I would crash the plane several times before ultimately taking a break. My successes of getting through the school to this point eased my failure of completing this seemingly impossible impossible task, 3 classes away from graduation. On the way home, I would pick up some snacks to eat. At this point, I would learn after having drank a dozen sodas while standing in an open dumpster, and after systematically dropping little snack cornucopias for the people who visited the beach, that I could just eat them in the car without suffering the inconvenience of time loss or littering, and could speed up the process of paying the convenience store owner back. Having experienced this revelation, I would head home and get some rest, not knowing that the next time Francisco logged in, his world would be considerably different. With that in mind, if you've enjoyed Francisco's journey through Grand Theft Auto Online and you have a suggestion about how to improve his life, I would like to know more. Please leave a comment on this video and have a peaceful day.